I want to spend a little time in the next 30 minutes. I'm going to try and do this in a half an hour so you can have another break before we have Ben Glad come up and speak. And I'm going to reflect on 40 years of God's faithfulness as well, a little bit. Going to do a little bit of history again, but from a different perspective. I'm going to give you an update of recent news and then also look forward a little bit so you can see where we hope God might allow us to go. So the Rafiki is a picture of God's faithfulness. One of the things we pray for in preparation for this enrichment is not only for fellowship of all of us together, not only great Bible teaching, which we have had and will continue to have the rest of this day, an opportunity to learn about what God is doing amongst our African brethren through the teaching of our leaders, church leaders, but also that you will grow in your knowledge of God, not just from hearing His Word, but seeing what He is doing. And I think you've heard that from our missionaries, and Dennis has done a wonderful job of recapitulating some of the things that God has done in Rafiki. But I hope this session will strengthen your relationship with the Lord. You'll just be amazed at what God has done. I hope that happens. I want to say that I've had the privilege of seeing what God has done in the Rafiki's 40 years firsthand for 35 years, because I had the privilege to go out as a missionary with Rafiki in 1990 and got to spend 10 years in Nigeria and 1 year in Mexico City, Rosemary. I don't know what we were doing there. But I learned a lot in that season from you. Thank you. If you count my first encounter with Rosemary in 1987, I'm going to say 38 years. But back then, she did not try and recruit me to be a missionary because I don't think she knew what to do with a banker from Texas. And how in the world can I use a banker in Texas when we're doing a lot of medical missions? And that was 1987. But in 1990, on my birthday, Barbara Paisley calls me, Rosemary, and says, "Karen, are you still interested in mission work?" Because Rosemary's going to West Africa to meet with church leaders to talk about Rafiki in Nigeria. So Rosemary goes to Nigeria. She gives Panya Baba my resume. He falls on his knees. He says, "We've been praying for someone like this for 5 years. We need someone to start a credit union for our denomination." And so he could use a banker. And it was remarkable. And so God allowed me to go to Nigeria, to Jos, Nigeria, 5 months later, after she called me with that opportunity, and I would have been a fool to say no. And I got to teach a women's Bible study fellowship class of 300-400 women. Thank you, Rosemary, I did. People must have thought I extorted money from the bank, you know? What you think? I mean, I wonder. So, no, God really provided quickly, and I got to go to the mission field rapidly. And it's a great adventure and a great opportunity. And there are hardships, But anyway, I'm just so thankful for that, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. The next slide is a Bible verse that it says, "The Lord your God has blessed you in all the work of your hands. He has watched over your journey through this vast wilderness. These 40 years, the Lord your God has been with you, and you have not lacked anything." So that verse appears in this attributes book that I have, and this is Rosemary's book, which I have used this for 20 plus years now. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to buy a new one every year. But I keep writing prayer requests in here, and I love going back and seeing how God has answered. So on the 23rd of the month, every month, I read that verse, and it appeared at the beginning of our last trip. But for our missionaries, I want to take just a moment to go through this. First of all, it says, "In all the work of your hands, you have been blessed." It's so all the work, everything you do is useful to the kingdom of God. All of it counts. And all of the work, I think it was Dennis, you mentioned about the fact there's work involved. And it's hard work, isn't it? The Lord has blessed you in all of the work. You are blessed in the work because whether it is hard or whether it is a wonderful season of repentant teenagers, which is amazing, whether it is hard times, which we'll talk about in a moment, or when it is fruitful, you come to know the Lord better no matter what. So he blesses you in the work of your hands, no matter what. And he has watched over your journey through the vast wilderness. You know, we live in a sinful world, and it is sometimes a vast wilderness, although we certainly have had an abundance of fruit. And so those of you in the mission field with Rafiki, all of you lead parts of the work. And there was a recent quote in Stephen Nichols' book on Martin Luther's comments on leadership. And he said this: leaders who are unprepared for distortion, rejection, suffering, and loss probably will not be able to endure leadership roles. We live in a fallen world, and so you all have faced a wilderness of times of whether it's distortion of what you're doing, you face that, rejection also sometimes, deep suffering, right, and loss. We need to be prepared to endure that because there is this sense of being in a wilderness, but he is with us and you in the wilderness. Our Rafiki missionaries have faced all sorts of challenges, and Dennis has touched on these in a couple of times, but we've had actual civil war in Ethiopia. We'd all had the pandemics. Our team in Liberia went through Ebola. In Nigeria, it has been constant conflict between religious groups, tribal groups around the village, bombings going off in Jos. I mean, I could go down the list. There's been armed robberies probably at every single Rafiki village. This, by the way, is not a recruiting poster, is it? Julie McKeegan reminded me of that the other day. I'm so sorry. Those of you who are thinking about mission work, see me later. I have a sales pitch. God brought us through the greatest recession since the Great Depression. That's when we moved here from San Antonio. I love that. It is an Ebenezer for us. Terrorist attacks in Kenya, coups, famine in some of our countries. We live in 10 volatile countries. And then there is always what I call the 10th level of hell of Dante's Inferno, bureaucracy. None of our missionaries go out to the mission field to fill out paperwork, but there's a ton of it. There's a ton of it. And so I'm explaining why, because it's a phase that God has us in right now. But the Bible tells us that these 40 years, God has been with you, the Lord your God has been with you, and you have lacked nothing. This always reminds me of the verse also found in this wonderful Praying the Attributes book, where Jesus says to his apostles, when I sent you out, so I'm sending you out on purpose, he says, when I sent you out without purse, bag, or sandals, and let me add something to that, or more missionaries, when I sent you out without purse, bag, or sandals, did you lack anything? Nothing, they answered. The Lord is with us. We are not lacking in what we need. So this verse is just perfect for our anniversary, and I wanted to just review it briefly about our ministry. I want to just quickly touch on, could you go to the next slide? We did a little timeline here, and I've been doing this on our trips recently because I like to kind of have in my mind sort of the seasons of Rafiki. And they're really, at this point, Rosemary, and I hope you don't mind, I kind of pictured this myself and named it myself. We've got the first season, I would say, is from 1985 to the year 2000. And I'm calling that our foundation season, when we were sending out missionaries to teach Bible study fellowship classes, establish those classes, and then also help in the country. So that's the foundation, 1985 to 2000. Then second, I will call it the construction season, from 2000 to 2010. That's when God enabled Rafiki to establish 10 villages in 10 countries in 10 years. Picture that. In the year 2000, we had no land, no buildings. Then by the year 2010, we had land in 10 countries and buildings, up to 200 plus buildings across 10 countries. Be encouraged by that, because God's past faithfulness encourages us for future fruitfulness. Just remember what he did that decade. It's truly stunning. But then this third season, from 2010 to 2025, the last 15 years, has really been more of an institutionalization. Institutionalization is perhaps a way of looking at that as our curriculum is getting developed and approved, as our RICE program is getting developed and approved, as our organizations are having to be codified a whole lot more in our countries where we serve that are becoming more regulated. So there's more to that, and I'll touch about that in a minute. The fourth season, which is after 2025, perhaps could then be our season of expansion. Foundation, you have the foundation, the construction, the institutionalization, then perhaps we could call it expansion, or Elliott's termination. So, I don't know. We'll see. So we've had a good sense of the first couple of seasons from the history video and Dennis's presentation, but I do want to look back at the last 15 years because it is incredibly encouraging to remember what God has done. It is biblical to look back at what God has done. Read the Old Testament. Their problem was they kept forgetting, and we don't want to forget. So we're going to look at it one more time here about the past, because reflecting on God's past faithfulness fuels our faith for future fruit. So I'm going to look at that next chart. So this, you can't read this. It's a terrible slide, and it's my fault, not Karen Gobert's, but I'm going to just talk to you about it for a minute. So from 2010 to 2025, we were still building and developing. We have gone from 16 school buildings to 41 school buildings. So God enabled us to build 25 more schools in Africa during that 15 years. During those past 15 years, from 2010 to 2025, 8 teachers' college buildings were also built. Also during this season, the Printing and Distribution Center right here in Florida, 10,000 square feet, was built. That was built during COVID. Look what God does. It always seems that in these really rough seasons, God provides for us abundantly. The biggest change up here on this slide you might want to look at is day students in a Rafiki school. In 2010, we had 223 children from the community. By 2025, we have 3,641. What God has done and the number of children that he has brought into our schools. I also want to say we have seen exponential growth in our impact over the last 15 years with only a 35% increase in expenses. So we've seen quadrupled, 20 times the impact, but yet God has enabled us to steward our funds, so our expenses as an organization have only gone up about 35%. So these community students, I want to talk about this for just a moment. What an amazing impact the day students have in their communities. They all get a home devotion page, which is an outline of the weekly Bible study that they take home to their parents. And I'm sure all of our missionaries can testify that as that goes out, the children are getting their parents to read the Bible to them, or the children themselves are reading the Bible to their parents. Or we have children who have read the Bible to their whole compound of people because the children can read an English Bible. And so the home devotion page, these community students, it's not just 3,641 students. It's their parents, their siblings, their neighbors. Exponential impact that we're seeing with that. Moving along, towards the bottom of the chart, we had 0 high school graduations in 2010. We now have graduated, we have 63 graduating classes now, high school graduates. In the last, 15 years, we completed 31 more books of the Bible for the Rafiki Bible study for small groups. Also, we completed 31 more books for our schools and 15 books for Sunday school. And Rosemary did a lot of that. Thank you. In 2010, we had curriculum only up to grade 2. And now our Rafiki Classical Christian curriculum is written all the way up to grade 12 including totally revising and updating the design up to grade 6. Well done, communications team. In 2010, we had no RICE program, no teachers' colleges. But now we have 112 subjects, a 4-year degree program in classical Christian education. And I'm sorry, Dr. Carol Krantz is not here, because if Carol was here, I'd give her a standing ovation, because Dr. Carol Krantz has pretty much written and designed all of that teacher training, and it is a Christian liberal arts teacher training program. Not only do we have those subjects, but also external teacher training in 9 of our 10 villages. We had none 15 years ago. So we have almost 200 students now in the RICE program. We've had almost 600 go through at least 1 year of the program. And those 600 people, probably 80% of them have gotten jobs, many as teachers. The PAD, the Printing and Distribution Center, has greatly increased our capacity to ship. In 2010, we shipped 1 container and 12 pallets, and it probably took a month. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. In 2010, and so, excuse me, by 2025, this is not going to be a good recording, Eric. I'm really sorry I'm going to be doing this the whole time. But by 2025, we are now able to ship 20 containers a year. We've probably shipped 150 containers around to Africa in the last 15 years. Bible distribution, we had 0 Bibles going out in 2010, and now up to 248,000 Bibles have gone out. We had 0 partner schools in 2010, and now there are 100 schools using our curriculum or Bible study, or both, in Africa. I want to talk about the study Bibles for 1 minute. For those of you who perhaps aren't familiar, in Africa, access to a really good study Bible is limited. You can't find them in bookstores. And if you can, they're equal to 1 or 2 months' salary for a pastor. So it's a huge gift for these pastors. And then I picture the change when you have a pastor now with a sound theological resource and a congregation of 500 people. So that 1 Bible and a pastor, think about the impact. Talk about expansion and exponential impact. It's truly amazing to think, oh, the places that Bible will go, right? You Dr. Seuss fans. So it's truly stunning to consider what God will do about this. So in Nigeria, the Evangelical Church is Winning All, our partner. They received 2,000 of those Reformation Study Bibles for their missionaries. Last year, those missionaries found out that a bunch of Muslims were moving from a militant area of Nigeria to a safer area. When the ECWA missionaries found out about that, they sent 50 of those missionaries who had received those study Bibles into that area to plant churches. So I love the fact that we get to be a part of the gospel going out accurately to these Muslims. And we have another story on that, but I don't have time for that. All right, so that's encouraging. In 2010, we did not have a Rafiki Classical Academy, but in 2023, it opened with 18 students. And now we're up to, what, 56 students? It tripled in size after 1 year. It is changing children. It's also changing their parents who are hearing from their children biblical truths, who maybe were not as serious about their faith and are now becoming more engaged. It's having the same impact that a Rafiki school in Africa does. It's really exciting to see. So it's good to look back and see what God has done on a numerical scale. But now I want to go to the next slide and look at just some, there we go. I'm going to touch on a few quick updates to give you pictures of what's happening in Africa. The first slide here is the Busoli Private School in Zambia. This is a partner school with Rafiki's curriculum and Bible study in a very rural area, probably a 15-minute drive into the bush from our Rafiki village in Zambia. What's unique about this school is that the one who started it, his name is Charles. Charles was a guard, I think, at the Rafiki village in Zambia when it first opened about 16, 17 years ago. Charles was a security guard, and actually I'm sure Mike and Vicki can tell his story better than I can. Charles is a hard worker. He eventually decides to go to the Rice program, the teacher's college. He finishes that. He then becomes a 4-year-old and then a kindergarten teacher in our classical Christian school at the village. Charles is now the head teacher for the pre-primary school, and then he got some property and a building from his aunt who passed away, and he decides to start his own school. He's got 60 children in this school using Rafiki's curriculum, Rafiki's Bible study, and guess what? He hired 2 of our Rice students. Do you love it? So while we were there visiting this school, a parent of one of the children, he rides up on his bicycle, and we greet and we chat, and I talk to him a little bit. He says, we are so excited to have this school right here, so close to where we live. Otherwise, the children have to walk a mile or 2 to the main road and then walk another mile or 2 somewhere, and they probably wouldn't even get a preschool, kindergarten education. So I love this story about Charles. The next slide is a school in Tanzania. This represents a different group of people who end up getting our curriculum in Bible study. This is New Beginnings School, about an hour or so around the mountain from us, started by a couple who are from Oklahoma, and they felt called to start a school in Tanzania. They found out about our Rafiki classical Christian curriculum, and they have a beautiful facility. 150 students, Gwen? Yeah, 150 students. They go up to 6th or 7th grade. They're using our curriculum up to grade 2 right now. They're gradually adding it. They hired 4 of our Rice students, and they got Bibles for the school, or they're going to get Bibles, and they just love the curriculum. And it is a really good school, and they plan on doing other ministry. There's another picture of the way the curriculum and partner schools are going out. This is a picture of the future expansion, right? Let's look at the next slide. So this is great. We were there just February 23rd at church, at an Africa Inland Church, which is one of our longest church partners in Kenya. AIC is probably 6-7 million members in terms of a denomination. So we went to church there that Sunday. Dr. Guy Waters got to preach. He has his picture up there? Yeah, he's there. And he got to preach that Sunday. So we visited the classrooms of Sunday school of the children, and they all had those bright yellow Holy Bible for kids, thanks to Rosemary and also Crossway. It was great to see that. Our Sunday school materials are also being used in some of the classrooms there. The thing about this church is AIC Pipeline is a large church and probably one of the largest, what they call vertical slums in at least Africa. 300,000 people live in 1 square mile. Yes. So you give a child a lovely little yellow cover Bible, and they take it home. They're right next door to about 60 people. And everybody else wants one. So children have been coming. They want these Bibles, and they bring their parents to church. It's a really good partner. They are eager for everything God has enabled us to develop. And we will hopefully have the Bible study curriculum flowing throughout Africa Inland Church. They minister to a lot of rural churches, and we've helped them with Bibles, Reformation study Bibles for their seminaries, but also the Crossway Bibles for their pastors and lay evangelists. They need it all, and God has given it to us. And we have a distribution system called the church. It could be an expansion season for us. Next slide, I think, is the Lutheran Church. This was great. The Lutherans in Uganda, they have 20 schools. They want our curriculum for all their schools. They also have 160 churches, and they are eager for the Bible study and the Bibles and so forth. It's a very small denomination in Uganda, but we have a bishop who is just, you know him, you know him, and Bishop Charles Bamega, you know him. Just really on fire for what God has given us. And so a great partner there. We visited 2 of their schools, also in a very rural area. They have good facilities. They're eager for training. They're ready to push forward with this. And we are too. The last thing I want to show is just a quick picture. In 2024, we had our 4th Classical Christian Conference. Rafiki is the only group doing classical Christian conferences at this point in Africa. We had one in Kenya in 2019. We had 2 in 2023, Kenya and Uganda. Then our team in Nigeria did one just for Nigeria. We were thinking 300 people. Not me. I knew it was going to be 500, didn't I? I know. Thank you. That is the right answer. And so, by God's grace, we had 500 people in our team in Nigeria. Susie and Shakila especially, and Doug and Carolyn when they were there, and Ishaku and all of the staff there catered the whole thing, hosted the whole thing. It was fantastic. Had 500 people. Out of that, we've probably got at least 20 schools with the evangelical churches winning all to start, that they're ready to use our curriculum in Bible study. So this is just a taste of the things God is doing. One last slide or two. Here we have our communications team has done a great job redoing the Rafiki Bible study for small groups. So now we have a brand new design, and you can see samples back there. We're not quite ready to sell them, but I think by next week we'll probably have just all the books of the Bible done, and all 66. Thank you, Karen Gobert. All 66. Anyway, we hope to have this great book design available for you all to use here in America for small groups. Don't forget, we also have Sunday school materials for every age level on 15 books of the Bible for churches. And then we also have Rafiki Bible study for schools, which I think if you know homeschool families who want a really good Bible study so they could study with their children a book of the Bible, and we have all 66 books done for schools or homeschools, that is a resource we would recommend to anybody to use in a Christian school, a classical Christian school, or a homeschool setting. And when you use that and get that Bible study, it enables us to help provide it in Africa. What a great dual purpose for a Bible study. Few quick stories. It's not a presentation without stories about the kids. So we've looked at the history a little bit. We've looked at sort of the numbers and big exponential, but it doesn't happen without the individual. So Tony, the story of Tony was mentioned yesterday. That's the next slide. Thank you. Oops, no, I forgot the new website. So we have a new website coming out. Yeah, sorry. Have a new website coming out. That'll be coming out probably in May or June, so be on the lookout. It's going to really, I think, capture not what we have been doing, but where we're headed. So I just wanted to mention that. It's just beautiful. Our team and communications and our website provider have worked hard to make it really beautiful. So be on the lookout for that. Now, the next slide, we've got a few. Just wanted to give you a picture. This is Ethiopia. We took pictures, and we had pictures sent in from all 10 villages, just to give you an idea of the number of people. Here's how you get expansion. These kids growing up, going out into the community. So you've got Ethiopia and Ghana, the next one. Kenya and Liberia. Malawi, Nigeria. Rwanda, Tanzania. Uganda, and Zambia. Look at the children. It's just really stunning that God would allow us. We have 5,000 people every weekday studying the Bible every day at our 10 Rafiki villages. If you count the missionaries, the staff, the children, and the Rice students. It's a privilege to get to do this work. Now on to a few. So you heard about Tony yesterday. I do want to confirm that Tony was discovered in a pit latrine as an infant. He was rescued, treated in a hospital, and went to a baby's home, and then he came to Rafiki, Uganda, at 2.5 years old in 2003. And yeah, I got to meet him too, Bobby. It's really, really amazing. He thrived, but then he went off the rails, but then he repented. and came back. And he finished his degree at McCary University, got a bachelor's in education. And in January, he started his first year as a class teacher at our school of fifth grade class. Don't you love that? Let's look at the next slide, Eric. Adela, Bishop Show, that's who you were. So here's a picture of Adela, whom Bishop Show was talking about yesterday. She has been at Rafiki. She had been at Rafiki. Both her parents had died. She is one of our Rafiki resident children. She was sick a lot at the village, but she always wanted to be a medical doctor. And sure enough, she did well enough on her exams to get placed at St. Joseph University in Dar es Salaam this year studying medicine. Love that. Next one. We've got Jehu in Liberia. Jehu's mother died of yellow fever. His father was a policeman killed in the war. And after the death of his mother, Jehu and his sister came, and they lived with their grandmother, and then it was too hard for her to take care of them, so he came to the Rafiki village in 2008. So Jehu was the valedictorian of his class. You can just see that. Whoops, that's back to Jehu, sorry. Yeah, and I don't know, Julie McKeegan, what's the latest? Is he in university now, or is he still waiting? Okay, you can wait. You can pray. They have the system in Liberia is broken for kids getting accepted into university, like it is in many of our countries. So pray for Jehu, who's the valedictorian of his class, but hopefully he wants to be what? Geologist. We could use a geologist in Liberia. They've got a lot of oil off the coast. All right. Next is Eunice, and you got to hear about Eunice a little bit yesterday from Shakila. And Eunice is just a sweet girl. She's in 10th grade now. And as Shakila says, she's gentle and kind. She has a beautiful confidence. She said, having lost her parents, Eunice's faith was in many ways bruised. She had to establish an unwavering love of God in a circumstance where most people would probably lose themselves. But now she has a passion for the scriptures, curiosity in her Bible studies, and wants to know God deeper every day. Just a sweet, sweet girl, Eunice. This is just an example of some of the individuals that God is using you to impact. They represent 3,641 day students and 590 orphans still left in our care, and so forth. So I think I've got a few more slides. All right, the last thing I want to finish with is what I promised you, was a few pictures of Rafiki Classical Academy. So Rafiki Classical Academy right now is meeting in the training center, where some of you had dinner, and then also meets in a cottage at the Rafiki home office. But our plan is that in the next couple of years, we will build a permanent building. So this is the elevation of the building. It's going to be a K through 8 classical Christian school seated on Rafiki's property. Look at the next slide. This is the floor plan with classrooms and then a nice meeting space for about 450 people and an outdoor back patio area. It's about a 24,000 square foot building for housing this school, which will go up to maybe almost 200 students. And it'll have a very nice courtyard area. So David Jass, are you here, David? David Jass, our other architect, our Florida architect, has designed this beautifully, and he's worked with Kelly Fore on it, and Rosemary and Steve. And so he has worked very hard to get this fly through. So I think, is that next, Eric? That's what it will look like, 3D rendering. And the fly through, here you go. No music. I'm not going to sing. Is that a BMW, David? Look at that, isn't that beautiful? It'll have science, art, music rooms, and this back patio area, and those doors open out so you can have even more people at a gathering. It's a really great use of space. It'll have kindergarten up through grade 8 classrooms. You'll have mostly the elementary on one side and the junior high on the right-hand side with offices inside. Here we go, we're going to go inside. Are you getting dizzy? Does this feel like an IMAX? Yeah. Just really well thought out. It's beautiful work, David. Isn't that beautiful? And then you walk in here, reception area. And then this area will be open, but we can also use it for events without building a separate building for events. And there you go. Thank you, David Jass. It was just beautiful vision. So pray for us on this. Yeah, pray with us on this. There's a huge demand for classical Christian education in America. There's a great need for it. We're the only classical Christian school in Lake County, Florida. And there are about 450,000 people here, and people are moving in every day. It's booming. And so we see this as an opportunity to minister to the community, to model our curriculum, and to mobilize others to go and do likewise. We have a curriculum. We're using the same curriculum we use in Africa here. The same thing. It tells you the standard that God has allowed us to develop. I have 3 more slides really quick. Just a reminder, Rafiki's mission is to help people know God and raise their standard of living with excellence and integrity. When all that is said and done, we hope to see a multitude of godly contributors in and to the world. And how? By providing the best Christian education to the least of these, discipling the next generation of the world through our villages, and by equipping the church with Bible study, classical Christian education for their schools, and theological resources. Next slide. We've looked at Rafiki's seasons, the foundation, the construction, the institutionalization, institutionalization, and expansion. And how will we see expansion happening? It's 2 ways. Thousands of schools around the world using Rafiki's education system, because it can go to any English-speaking school. Secondly, thousands of churches around the world using Rafiki Bible study materials. Is this what we would hope to see? Let's ask the Lord. 3rd slide is how can you pray for us? Child sponsors for every day student in our schools. That's what we're asking God for. We have a couple of thousand who don't have their own sponsors. So maybe God is calling you for $25 a month to come alongside not just one child, how about 2 or 3 children through child sponsorship. You get a quarterly handwritten report and a picture of that child. We're asking God for at least 60 missionaries on the field. We need to grow in that area. We're asking the Lord for completion of our teacher training colleges in Africa, construction and accreditation. But just last week, a donor wrote and said, I'd like to fund one of those teachers' colleges. You see how God works? These 40 years, He's always been with us. You've lacked nothing. Isn't it incredible? Look what God has done. Completion of Rafiki Classical Academy's permanent site seems absolutely impossible, but God. And establishment of a teacher training institute at the home office. Yeah. I've had 3 separate encounters with people who, out of the blue, said, have you thought about doing that in the United States? And I said, Rosemary already thought of that. She already put it on my to-do list. She has access to my to-do list. And so it's amazing. And why not? We have the curriculum, we have the model school, and we've got access to wonderful people who can help put that training together. Would you rejoice with us and give God the glory. And may your faith be strengthened by all you have seen, what God has done and what he might just do. Thank you very much.